going to play a couple of videos just to kind of introduce you guys a little bit about what we're doing here. So.
Trust me, you won't believe this one.
A new kind of hotel is set to open in Las Vegas, promising a fully AI-driven experience.
Consumer electronics show just wrapped up in Las Vegas.
Artificial intelligence,
World's first
fully AI-
powered hotel. Check-in process is entirely digital.
Connecting doors will unlock
to match that reservation.
The AI will puzzle that for you on the fly.
Artificial intelligence is making its mark on luxury travel.
Taking personalization to the next level.
Open its doors to the public soon.
That's the future.
Interesting.
Feeling that somebody truly understands you, right? And that's the power of AI for us.
So this is shortly after we announced what we were doing at CES. Mr. Shapiro that owns the CES conference show asked us to come in. They hadn't had any tech innovation in hospitality at the show. He said in almost a decade that they wanted to kind of feature. So we came in and announced, and literally it was crazy, like the amount of coverage that we received, like right away. Like 750 million, like followers and following through all the different channels and media. And we said, hey, maybe we're on to something here. So I'm going to share another video that just kind of gives you just a quick journey of what the tech kind of represents. And then I'll kind of do a deep dive with you guys.
Hospitality is more than a stay. It's a soul-stirring experience. That's Outonomous, a journey of endless possibilities. It begins with Key, Autonomous Digital Concierge. You can personalize room settings, choose preferred views and attributes, and dynamically transform a studio into a 6-bedroom suite, blending privacy and togetherness, unlike anything you've experienced before. Arrival is intuitive, and click. Unlock your stay with a simple scan. Forget door hangers. Our digital signage adapts to your preferences at every touch point, whether it's privacy, cleaning, or unlocking. IoT-powered rooms adapt to your mood, while the Media Center offers entertainment, productivity, and curated recommendations. And then there's eButler, the discreet in-room box that delivers all your essentials or even your late-night cravings without human interaction. Once outside your room, Outonomous comes alive. Vibrant social spaces and serene retreats create a perfect balance of connection and relaxation. Arrive early, leave late, and store your luggage securely, freeing you to roam without the burden of bags. Behind it all is Phiro, the quiet force that brings everything together. At the heart of Outonomous, Phiro connects your preferences with autonomous services. It adapts room layouts, optimizes amenities, and tailors every detail to your needs in real time. Each stay refines the next, for an experience that keeps getting better. Flexible, intuitive, personal. Outonomous, reinventing hospitality.
All right, so that's a little bit about kind of summary. We're trying to reinvent hospitality without reinventing the wheel. So that's kind of the idea of Outonomous. But before I kind of just jump right in, I want to, this is actually an image rendering, and I'll show you some images of actually it's built now, it's open. We just opened 2 months ago. But, I want to explain about how the concept came up, because with any new concept, that comes up in our industry, we're across multiple industries, new concepts come up with trying to resolve issues and problems at scale. A little bit about me and our company. I'm one of the partners in the company. We're across different verticals, and real estate's in our DNA. So we look at things from an investment standpoint across all asset classes that we play in. We were one of the biggest distress acquisition companies privately held in the country. I think Wall Street Journal had us ranked, 13th in the nation at one point. Just massive volume of repositioning assets, multifamily, land, residential. During 2010, we started repositioning a lot of these assets into short term. Vacation rentals was very, very lucrative. A condo or a house was making 3-4 times revenue. If it was renting for 1,800, it was yielding us, 6,000-7,000 a month. And we said, wow, this is a really great cash flow. Don't renew leases. Let's do this hospitality thing. But across different cities and whatnot, it's very restrictive, not zoned properly. It's HOAs. It's in the building. The neighbors don't like it, so that's an issue. So we said, hey, this is something at scale that's a problem for the Airbnbs of the world. And when we started really analyzing from an investment, we said, you know what? Let's take a look at hospitality and how do we figure something out? Our motto as a company is connecting minds, creating the future. We have a whole tech arm based out of Germany. So we got all the minds of our technology, real estate, our capital stack team, and just said, hey, how do we solve this? This narrative kind of outlines what we came up with, that, the hotel industry at scale, there hasn't been a lot of innovation over the last 100 years. I mean, it's very similar. You walk in, it's a hotel, it's a bed, and it's just multiple brands. But one thing that's great about hotels is consistency. That's one thing. But there's not a lot of personalization in the hotels. And then when we looked at other industries like Airbnb, for example, we started seeing, wow, you know what? They're like one of the biggest booking platforms in the world. I think they have 275 million users on this platform. Where you look at Bonvoy, they're about 238 million. We're like, wow, this is such a big trajectory. Why is this? Well, we started seeing that when we had Airbnbs, for example, or short term, we couldn't keep up with the demand of our 4 or 5 bedroom, the residences. It's like, man, they were always jam packed, high occupancy. We're charging premiums, extra people. You're charging $30 extra for every other person. And it's just, you do the math at scale and it's like, wow, this is pretty lucrative. And then we started looking at multifamily, saying, hey, you know what? A lot of the deals aren't penciling. Insurance premiums, great location, but it's getting harder and harder to finance in this era. And we said, hey, how do we come up with a solution? And that's essentially what we did with Otonomus. It has hotel level consistency within an ecosystem that has no consistency. You go to a VRBO or an Airbnb, and it's like you get a great experience. The Wi-Fi doesn't work on this one because of the host. This one, they forgot the towels. So there's no brand consistency. And say, how do we create a consistency within an ecosystem that's still evolving? And how do we do this? So we decided to build the first prototype ground up. It's a multifamily, looks like a multifamily, but it acts like a hotel. We looked at multifamily. It's trading at about 5 to 6% return on cost right now in the markets. But the performance model of what we're doing and how we're doing it, it's going to yield anywhere from 12 to 18% return on cost, depending on the market condition and where you put this and whatnot. So that's 2 or 3x in the exact same building for the cost to build of a multifamily. So we're looking at, as we started evolving, we said, hey, how do we execute this concept? Interchangeable rooms. We can't build a multifamily with 4 bedrooms. Like if COVID happens, the capital markets, who's going to rent a 4 bedroom? We have to keep the fundamentals of real estate. So we created 1, 2, 3 bedrooms like a typical multifamily, but we added the layer of connecting them. The 2 bedroom to the 1 bedroom to the other 2 bedroom. Now you have a 6 bedroom or a 5 or a 4, where there's a high premium for that. But we had to do it creatively, and we said, okay, well, let's look at the tech stack. How do we execute this? How do we do a smorgasbord of inventory, and then how does it communicate to the third party, the OTAs? There really wasn't a system that can do that. And we said, we sat with all of them, the Operas of the world, the Sabres, and all the systems you can imagine. And we said, well, you know what? We'll have to kind of home grow our own system because the logic currently doesn't exist in the industry for what we're trying to do. So that's where we came up with FIRA, which is, and I'll get into it here, but we had to create our own system. And then as you're going down the journey, you end up, okay, well, how do we make it even more efficient? And I'll kind of share that with you. But why now? That's another key point of what I wanted to talk about. We couldn't have done this 10 years ago. It was impossible. Technology didn't exist. There was just a lot of barriers of entry. But we found, like, post-pandemic, the guests are demanding different things. We're starting to see that, the shifts in travel, shifts in travelers and what they want. Cities are restricting Airbnb. So that's a whole other thing that at scale, it's a big issue. So, how do we entitle a project like this? What's the entitlement process looking like? So we went through the whole journey. We entitled it as a condo hotel. So that way we have the flexibility of short-term hotel, long-term. In certain markets, we can kind of do a hybrid where it's long-term, short-term, mid-term corporate, or straight hotel. It gives us the flexibility as an owner, owning the asset, that we can be flexible with market cycles, and it's bankable. If there's a downturn and something happens, capital markets understand it, REITs will buy it, you can stabilize it as an apartment if you need to. So that's the logic behind the brand of what we're doing. So this is just a little inside of the experience. So this is one of the rooms. It's a home away from home. We're not doing anything exotic, because the idea behind the brand from an investment thesis is saying, hey, how do we build at a traditional apartment? We didn't do smooth wall finishes. We did everything like a typical apartment budget. We built this first one for about 160 million. And the revenue projection on this is about 30 to 35, depending on food and beverage income and so on and so forth. But that's pretty damn good for 160 million. Not too bad. The returns are good on that. All of them come equipped with kitchens. So we design the kitchens to make it comfortable and giving the audience and the guests coming in, flexibility. What we're finding since we've been open is we have a lot of ideas of what we think, that guest profile is. But surprisingly, we're finding out, like, as we go, that's part of what we're doing with the AI, is really connecting the analytics of what the guests are coming into. But we wanted to kind of create a home away from home. If they stay for a day, if they stay for 3 months, we're starting to see the use case of the traveler is really telling the story of what we're offering. Here's the bedrooms. Again, it's clean, simple, very spacious. I think our smallest room that we have, our 1 bedroom, is about 820 square feet. So right now we're the biggest standard room in our city in Las Vegas, which is very competitive. I think Venetian was 740 square feet. They kind of own that market of being the biggest room on the strip and whatnot. But what's nice about the concept, we didn't have to be in the first line on the strip. This is the type of concept that within an ecosystem like an Airbnb or VRBO, we can be, a few minutes away where land cost is a lot less, and the people are doing it. We found that when we had a portfolio of short-term rentals, for example, people were driving 20, 30 minutes just because it had what they wanted. They wanted a pool, or they wanted 4 bedrooms, and they're doing a reunion, or they're doing a bachelorette weekend. So it was more about the product, and that was kind of the driver. That was kind of the first layer of the hierarchy, is how do we create product that doesn't really exist in the hotel industry? So that's a little bit about the rooms. We added this layer, we call it e-butler, which is, if you, let's say, want a towel, you speak into your phone, can I get an extra set of towels? They don't have to go into the room. It'll ping you that it got delivered. Because sometimes, I know for me, I'm in hotels, I'm in the shower and someone walks in and brings me the towel, or housekeeping walks in. So that's why we created the little pad screen on the outside. Hey, do not disturb, come in, cleaning, and everything is a la carte. It's part of the journey. We started really diving deep about, well, multifamily doesn't have amenities. So how do we integrate amenities into a hotel experience? So we put a bar in the lobby. Very activated, indoor, outdoor, 14-foot pocket doors that go into a beautiful pool space, because these are revenue drivers inside any hotel ecosystem, how do you make it fun? You know, you don't want to go into a building and it's just an apartment. We want it to feel very active. You know, you go to brands like the Pendry, you go down at night, you go to the bar and it's jam-packed and it's a place to be, even for locals to come in. And that's what we're really trying to do with this particular brand, is to have it very local centric. So if you're going to come and it's, you know, you're doing a getaway or you're going with group travel, golf trip, you want a place that's going to be fun. And that's something that even as a local, we also want to cater to the locals. So we do have a collection of inline retail that's for lease within the building structure that has we curated local restaurants, best of class. So if we pop it in Nashville, people want to go, you want to go to New Orleans, they want gumbo, they don't want Starbucks. They want an authentic experience, and that's part of the brand ethos that we've put into the brand. And this is, again, just another of the spaces on the entry. The bar, you know, very clean, simple finishes. Again, it's a budget-driven concept that we're integrating a lot of amenities throughout. We have an outdoor patio, similar to the restaurant down here that had the indoor-outdoor space. Pool. Again, we wanted to create a very cool pool. This is going to be our first summer season coming in. We have a lot of programming and activation in the pool. In the middle there, we built the pool in the center to have a platform and a catwalk. So next summer, we have Fashion Week. They signed on that they're going to do a Fashion Week at the hotel. So this pool is going to turn into a whole runway show for 500-600 people. We take the seats out. So now every space in the hotel essentially is a venue. You know, this is going to be a place where you're going to have unplugged concerts. And the reason why I took this picture is the stack of the 3-bedroom suites. You see the kind of the overhang balconies. Those, when we have big events, concerts, those become our box seats, where you're going to turn it into catering for 14, 15 people, and they're going to have fun, watch a set, Chappelle, Netflix Unplugged, whatever. This is where it's going to happen. So it's for corporate buyouts as well. We wanted to really think of what are all the revenue drivers that we can create and jam-pack for the budget cost. And that's the idea behind it. Every inch of this place has to make money. And that's kind of the key. Adjacent to the pool is a courtyard here. That the courtyard is on the backyard side of all the inline retail restaurants. So every night, this is going to turn into a jam-packed courtyard restaurant where it's going to be al fresco dining, there's going to be a DJ, and really trying to curate an experience that you don't find as often here in the US, but you find it more in Europe. You know, every time I go, you go to Marbella and you go to Coya, for example, or the Nobu. These are the type of spaces they have. They do very well, they're jam-packed, they're more intimate of a space, but it's a place for locals to go to, where locals want to say, hey, this is one of the best French Lebanese restaurants or a sushi dining, and something's always happening there. And that's kind of the experience we wanted to do, because again, we're not competing in our market in Las Vegas, for example. We're competing with 6,000 room properties that, you know, they're bringing, you know, top chef, executive chef. This is more curative, something that's elevated but approachable. You know, great food, great dining, because we don't want to only depend on the traveler. We wanted to depend on local. So this is something that's very local driven. We were very mindful in saying, hey, what's a place that we'll go to? So we don't have to fight with the strip and go into a parking lot and parking garage and whatnot. So that's a little bit about, you know, that. I'm going to jump right into this. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of everything. So behind Outonomous with the AI, what does that mean? So FIRO here, this is actually the system. It stands for Fully Integrated Room Options. We developed this tech, and if you can kind of see this imagery, the O brain is what's correlating everything together. The challenge with technology, the challenge with tech in the hospitality is it's a very segmented. It's very antiquated, but everything's so segmented. You got front of house, back of house systems, reservation systems, and the data doesn't always speak to each other. All of this, what this represents for the guest within the key, is a personalized experience. I think in the previous panel, they talked about kind of the approach, like the airlines. We're introducing an onboarding process that's going to be an attribute-based booking. You're going to pick your stay. But if you want housekeeping every day, here's what it is. If you want an Airbnb experience and not housekeeping, you can pick that too. It's a la carte. And that really, you look at things from an investment standpoint, you can really handle your staffing compendiums differently. And also, we're turning usually expenses into revenue centers. So my housekeeping now makes us money versus just carrying an expense, because always going to be flexible based on the demand and need. So that's how we're looking at the system, and everything's integrated. But the key with the key is really about how do we personalize it for the guests. It's the name of the game now is about guest understanding, being understood, and how do we create that understanding. And it's really hyper personalizing. That's where everything's moving to. You know, you look at the Ubers of the world, and it's like, you know, you can order a car, and it knows which car, it knows how long you're going to get there with all the parameters in real time. And we said, hey, why aren't we doing this in hospitality? Why, when I just land whatever city, it says, hey, we see that you're now here in Scottsdale. Let me see if your room's ready. I know it's early, but let's check. Your room's ready. Do you want to check in? Yeah. Boom, you're done. You don't wait in a queue. You don't go to front desk, because the tech exists. It's just how do we implement this at scale? And that's essentially what we're doing with Otonomus, the O-Brain, is creating this guest journey, but hyper personalizing to monetize. So everything you see here that we're doing, the key is, can we add an extra 15 to 30% revenue for each individual guest? And every guest, it's not just who booked the room and I just have an email and a telephone number. It's really every occupant in the room. If we go together as a group and we're there 4 people, I'm sharing the key with everyone. And then everyone has to put their own information and onboard, put their credit card if they want to charge. But now I'm creating data analytics from everyone. I know how you like your coffee, how you eat your salad, your lactose. So the next time you come in, the likelihood of most hotels, if I only go once every 2 years, they may remember me. But with tech, it doesn't get tired. It'll know every single time exactly what you like. You still want the same welcome drink, and that's the power of the technology. The idea behind the concept and the tech is, can we offer this at the price of an Airbnb? Can we create a 5, 7-star level service through technology at a cost? If I can achieve that at a Motel 6 and it gets to know me and knows everything, that's the idea behind the technology that we've created. So sorry it took a little longer than anticipated, but
Say thank you to Steve. Thank you.